Welcome, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Using the Mobility Client in Connect. We appreciate you joining us today. My name is Heidi Eldon. I'm a Quality Assurance Analyst at Inflow. I help coordinate the Inflow webinars. Leading the webinar today is Tom Lyons, a senior engineer and subject matter expert who's been working with the Inflow team for over 5 years. Tom has worked with many different types of organizations, helping build out call flow from the ground up, reconfigure, as well as install new ShoreTel Mitel systems. He has a wealth of information and experience on many different unified communications topics. At Inflow, we love to educate and empower customers on unified communication systems. It is our goal that your system is always working at peak performance and you are using the features to its fullest. And that's why we love to host these webinars. We've got some good ones coming up over the next few weeks. You'll see next week, Tom will be hosting a 2-day full admin training on the Mitel Connect Administrator. The session is broke out over 2 days, so note that you'll want to sign up for both Wednesday and Thursday. And then in April 4th, we have Chris Riccio, our Director of Advanced Applications. He'll be talking about using artificial intelligence, AI, as part of the omni-channel strategy. And then Tom's up again on April 9th, giving an overview of how Google Apps can integrate with Mitel Connect. You can register for those at the Inflow Communications website if you're interested. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Inflow Communications, a few notes here. Our sole focus is on unified communications and contact center. We have offices and employees in over 10 different states. We have 180,000 endpoints that we support with over 800 customers supported nationwide. We truly care about providing our customers world-class customer service. We've got a lot of programs in place to make sure that we're living up to that promise. Oh, here's a look at some of our different customers. We support customers in every type of industry. And we know that regardless of what industry you might be in, using a mobility client is extremely important in today's business world. So now's a good time to locate the questions box within the GoToWebinar controls. As usual, we will be answering your questions at the end of this session. Also, we will be recording the session and getting this over to you later today. If you're not familiar, we do have a YouTube channel where we post many of our videos. So feel free to look there for some additional resources. And with that, Tom, I will let you get started.
Thank you very much, Heidi. As she mentioned, I'm Tom Lyons. I'm a senior engineer here with Inflow Communications. And today what we're doing is we're going to go over the mobility client for the Connect platform. Some of you may have seen the latest and greatest client, which is what we'll be showing today. There have been a few variants in the past. If you are familiar with the one with the old ShoreTel logo and the black and orange trim, this is a different client. This is in fact the updated version of that client. And we're going to go through the features that this client has, what you can do with it, and then some general questions and answers at the end here. So let me go ahead and pull this up on my screen, which you guys should be able to see now. And this is basically a mirror of my phone on my desktop here. And this is the sign-in screen for the Connect Mobility client. So to go through the fields here, if you've never actually signed into the client before, the top field where you see my email address is the username field. In this particular case, we are using a cloud account, so I'm using a full email. This would be your Connect client username that you would use in this field if you have a premise solution. And if you do have that set up, you would want to talk with your administrator to make sure that you're set up for mobility and that you are able to log in using your username. Under that is your password field, which you can tell because it is wildcarded out so you can't see it. And there is a little visibility button that you can use to see the password. I'm not going to use that today because then you'd see my password. But if you click on that little eye, it will show the characters there for you. Underneath that is going to be the number of the device that you're using for mobility. This is used for advanced features like being able to swap calls between the Connect client and the mobility client, which I'm going to show you in a moment here. And just below that will be your server information, which again, if you have mobility in your environment, you will be able to get from your system administrator. They should be able to get you that information very easily. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And it's going to ask me to validate my cell phone number. This is a normal response when you type this in, and I'm going to just go ahead and click on yes. That's just to make sure that the system can use my number correctly to actually reach out to my cell phone in the event that the application doesn't work for what it needs. And then we'll go through a login and provisioning process. And if everything goes well, you're going to see this provisioning pop-up box that states that the device has been successfully provisioned. This means that the device has been able to get through, is able to communicate with everything it needs to, and is able to get up on the system. So I'm going to hit OK here, and it's going to briefly minimize, and then it's going to pop up the client on the screen. And you can see here, I've got a number of different things on my screen, including I just got a pop-up saying that I have new enterprise voicemail. So it does do a check at the beginning of the login phase for stuff like that. And then you also have a pane in the back, which I'll show you here, with a number of things that are showing up on the screen. So to go from the top down, in the top left, you can see that I have my name and my extension. Tom Lyons, and you can see I'm extension 1009 on this particular platform, and I'm also set to available. And just like in the Connect client, if I click on this drop down, I can change my call states. So these call states correspond to everything that you already know about the desk phone and the Connect client on your desktop. This works exactly the same way and does in fact change your phone extension based on the mode that you put yourself into. So if I were to put myself into out of office, and you can see now that it shows out of office, then you would be able to then change it back and go to available. But going down through the rest of the list here, you can also see on the right side that we do have a search function that we can use to search for contacts here. We have our settings tab, which is going to be the cog here. I apologize. It looks like the app itself may be having a problem with the refresh, which might be our issue here. But I'm going to get through this as best we can. But to go through this here, going through our activity down at the bottom, we also can see all of our made and received calls. So you can see that toll-free call, unknown, and my cell down at the bottom. And then right below that, you're going to have your voicemail tab, which is going to be this button here, a recent tab, which is going to have all of your calls that you have made and received recently, up to 100 calls, just like the Connect client. An events pane, which is going to show you all of your events that are integrated with your calendar. And this does work off any calendar integration that you have built into the system. So in our case, we are actually using a integrated Google Calendar, and you can see that all that calendar information is showing up on my screen here. And then also a contacts tab. So you do have all of those options just like you did before. And now I'm going to go ahead and go through each one and what you can do. So to get back to the main screen, you'll see that little Mitel button that's in between recent and events. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that's going to bring me back to the main page here. And you also have your dial pad, which is where that Mitel button was. You can see that the dial pad is there now. What I'm going to do real quick to show you how you can handle the calls in the client is I'm going to place a call to myself. And you can see that I've got a call popping up on my screen, and I'm going to hit answer here. I'm going to put myself on mute so there's no reverb. And you can see on the screen here, I've got the caller ID, which comes through as toll-free call for us. That's our support line number. You can see under it the 877-401-4064, which is the support number, and then also the number of seconds we've been on the call. So we've been on the call for about 20 seconds here. Under this, you've got a few options, and I'm going to go through them here with you. You have an option for handover, add caller, which is your conference capability, video, if this was an internal call or a mobility client-to-client call and video was supported, you can actually use that for video conferencing. You can transfer just like you could before, and you can also move, which is a really cool feature with mobility that functions with the Connect client and allows you to switch between the two. And then, of course, you also have the ability to put the call on hold. You can put the call on speakerphone, and you also have your keypad. So to go through each of these options and what they do for you, the handover call, or function rather, is going to actually place a call to your cell phone number that you put into the app at the beginning, and the system will then transfer the call to your cell phone. This is handy if you're going to go into an area where you don't have any Wi-Fi, and that would allow you to get into an area where if you don't have a data connection, you don't have any 4G, which is required for the mobility application, you can still continue on the call that you're going to be on because it's going to go through your standard cell and voice rates. So this does, for informational purposes, would use any minutes on your phone. So it does affect your voice plan if you do use the handover, but the option is there. It's kind of nice for situations kind of like mine. I live in an area in a valley where I don't get good data reception. I don't even really get great cell reception, but I get much better cell reception than data. And so if I'm on the road and I get a call, I'll use the handover function to send that to my cell phone, so I'm not going to lose the people that I am talking to. Add caller is going to be a conference ability, and when you press the add caller button, it's going to pop up this dial pad here. And if you know the extension of the person, you can type it in and you can use it here. You can also use it for an external number. So if I wanted to do this number, I could actually type this number in to try to add that participant. And then there's also, down at the bottom, a little button that will allow you to go through your enterprise matches, and then you could type from here. So if I wanted to do that, I could look for this person, and I could put them in. And that would send them through and actually add them to the call. We're not going to actually add anybody to the call today, but you do have that functionality. Transfer works much the same way. You can transfer to a specific number or extension. You can also do that directory search, which you can see on in between there. You can see that little image with the person on it. And then once you start typing in a number, you have the option to either blind transfer, which is going to send the call directly to the person that you're trying to transfer to, or you can do a consultant transfer, which is going to place the first call on hold, send the call over, or send you over to the person that you want to consult in, see if they can take the call. If they can, then you can merge them. And if not, you can hang up on the person you were going to merge with and go back to the call. And then this is the move feature, which I'm going to actually pop up my Connect client on the screen as well for here. The Connect client, in conjunction with the mobility client, if you use the move feature, will allow you to send the call to your desk. So I'm going to do that here, and you can see the call ringing in on my client here, which I'll answer. And now it's up here, and you can see it's no longer on my mobility client, it's actually on my Connect client. And on the same page, there's also a move button in the Connect client for move call. And if I do that, it's going to place the call on hold, and now it's going to call my mobility client again, which I will answer again and put back on mute. So you can go back and forth between. So if you are in the car, just getting to the office, you get a call, you can definitely take the call from your mobile phone, answer the person there, talk to them as you walk to your desk, hit the move button, get on your desk phone, and just act like you were in the office the entire time. So it truly is a good extension of your office environment. You can bring it with you, and you can even transfer it directly to your desk phone without any issues very seamlessly. Hold does exactly what you'd expect. Speakerphone does exactly what you'd expect. And keypad will pop up a keypad. So if you're calling somebody that has numbered options, like if you're calling your ISP, for example, you would be able to use the keypad to send in those touch tone presses so that you can get to where you need to go. So you have most of the same abilities to handle calls in the client, just like you could on the Connect client itself. I'm going to go ahead and end this call now, and we're going to go through some of the other features here. Events, which is at the top, is what I'll start with here. So I'm going to click the Events button down at the bottom near the dial pad. And you'll see, as I noted before, you can see all of your integrated events. You cannot add events from this calendar. However, you can look at the details of events and even go to the calendar from the application. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and click on this one for me for 8 a.m., Tom Webinar Mobility Client and Connect. When I click on it, it's going to pop up any information that's with this. So if there's a dial-in extension or a local dial-in number, if this was a conference bridge, you would see that here. So if you use the Mitel conferencing, you would see this in the application itself. You'll see who organized the meeting. So you can see that our support calendar sent this. The participants, which would be myself and Heidi here. And then there's also an open in calendar button. And if I click on that, that would go to my Google Calendar so that I could see more information on the event itself. And you can do that for any event that is in here. So you do have that capability. And if you have an Outlook calendar on your phone, or if you're using a calendar app on your phone with calendar stuff in the phone itself, it will pop up in this view. Going back to see the activity, there's only a little bit in here, but I'm going to go ahead and click on Recent here, which is where activity will be. You can also click on View All next to activity. And you'll see all of your recent calls. You can see that there have been a number of calls in from that toll-free number that we used for the example. There was an outbound call to a number, and then there was a few calls from my cell phone. So this does show calls to you regardless of if it's when the mobile application is off or if it's on. It acts just like the history feature that is in the Connect client itself. And so that is a pretty robust feature. You can see up to 100 calls here. So there's a 100 call buffer, just like with the Connect client. And if I were to click on the information for these calls, it'll look up directory info if there's any available. In this particular case, there's nothing for this toll-free number other than the phone number. And you'll notice that there's a button that I can press to actually call this number. So you can quickly call people back from here as well. If you wanted to look at just missed, you can look between all of your calls or just missed calls. I don't have any missed calls, but they would show up here if I were to have any. That way I could find out who called me and didn't leave a voicemail so I can give them a call back. Going back to the main page here, there are also a voicemail tab. I'll click on here. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to show all your voicemails. If you have listened to a voicemail, it won't be bold anymore. If I click on it, I have the option to play it here. I can listen to it on speakerphone or not. By default, it's going to use your speakerphone. I can hit the call back button to call back the user. Or if it was an external number, it would call the external number that's associated with the caller ID, or I can delete it here. And just to show you here, I'm going to go ahead and load it up here, which might take a second. Apparently it's going to take a minute, so we're going to go ahead and skip that. I was just going to listen to the voicemail and then show you that it will go and not be bold anymore once you listen to it. But it works just like the Connect client, where if I were to listen to the voicemail here, it would no longer be bold. So I just wanted to show you that feature. The voicemail tab is pretty much what it's used for there. You can see your voicemails, you can listen to voicemails, you can call people back. So that's what's available in the mobility client here. And then we also have a contacts tab. Contacts tab will allow you to search for people. You can look through. So you do have the ability to search through pretty easily. And you can also, up at the top where it says enter a name, if you click on that, oh, it's weird. It's not taking my input. I think there's some sort of weird synchronization problem with the application we're using. But you can type in a name where it says enter a name above to search the directory. And this will allow you to actually look for people in the directory itself. So that will allow you to find somebody very easily. If I wanted to find, for example, Chris Mitchell, and I found him, it's going to pop up all the information on Chris that is available in the system, which in this case, I've got a mobile number. So you can see everything there. If it's a user built into the system, you'll see an extension. You'll see the ability to call them. And then also, and you may have noticed this as well in the contacts here. Let's see, go back to, actually, let's do this. Oh, you know what? It looks like it is totally gone. So this is one thing that we can touch base on as well. There used to be instant messaging in this client. And many of you probably have used the instant messaging in the Connect client. This is actually being moved to a new application called Teamwork. And that is in progress here. We are not showing Teamwork today, but it is just another way to collaborate and includes easier ways to do things like group messaging. So there is a Teamwork mobile app as well that takes over for that application aspect. And if you try to open a message, which I was looking for, but I apparently do not have available in my setup, it would actually prompt you to download Teamwork and wouldn't allow you to use the IM directly through the client anymore. So that is one change from the older versions of the mobility client that you may not have seen. But otherwise, this is pretty much the same. And then lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this cog here to show you a little bit more information. And in fact, you can see it right there where it says collaborate more effectively, get Mitel Teamwork today. That is for the instant messaging. So that will allow you to use the instant messaging the way that you need. And that is with the latest versioning of the Connect Mobility client. But to go through a couple other options here, you do have the ability to turn off ringing on your device. You can turn this slider on and off, which it'll just stop the mobility client from ringing if you get a phone call. You can also turn data or voice calling over VoIP on and off. If this is turned off, then as you can see, calls will use your carrier minutes. So that's important to note. And that will also happen depending on your mobility setup if you are set up to take those calls even if you don't have a data connection. Then in that case, if you don't have a data connection, it will go through and it will use your carrier minutes. So that's important to note. External assignment will allow you to change where calls go. As you can see, it's going to my primary extension. If you had a separate number that you wanted to use, like just your cell phone, you can actually do that as well, in which case the mobility app wouldn't function. It would just go straight to your cell phone and use your normal dial pad and normal call functions. And then you also have a troubleshooting box. So you can look at things like your connection status, your configuration, and your logging. From a user standpoint, this isn't going to be somewhere that you'll go into very often. But you would have the ability to send your client logs into your administrator if there is a problem with your mobility client, so that you would be able to get that issue resolved. So this is a way to get those logs uploaded so that we can take a look. And that pretty much does it for the mobility client itself. I do see we have a few questions here. I'm going to go ahead and clear the clutter off my screen here. And I apologize for the quality. I'm not sure what happened there, but I think the refresh on my phone was causing problems as I switched views in the application. So we'll figure that piece out. So let me go and take a look at the questions here. Let's see here. Is the app working? I can't get in. So if you're trying to open up your mobility client application, you would need to have a user that's associated with mobility that was set up, and it would need to be active, and it would need to be properly configured. So that does depend on your particular setup. If you are having any issues with that particular setup and you should be able to use this, I would contact your administrator. And if they're having issues, they can reach out to us and we can take a look at it for you. Hi, I'm using IM on mobility. That feature will not go away. Tom mentions Teams and our users really want IM on the mobility client, and it appears to be working. Tom mentioned on the latest version, Teams will replace IM as it looks on mobility today. At this point, for the cloud-based version, it looks like Teamwork is in full effect. For a premise-based solution, that is more easily controlled because the IM is through the service appliance that is built in on the premise side. So I expect that feature on the premise side will actually stay around for quite a while. But if you are using the Cloud Connect client, then you would be required to use Teamwork for the IM features. So it sounds like we're in good shape there. One thing to touch on as well for the premise-based solution, the mobility client and mobility licenses do come as part of bundles with Connect. So you do get that functionality. However, there is hardware required or a virtual appliance. If you are looking at getting mobility implemented, it is something that you would want to go out and take a look at with us, and we can get you set up with what we would need to do to get that going. So definitely give us a shout if that's something you're looking at. And speaking of giving us a shout here, there's a bunch of different ways that you can connect with Inflow. So up on our screen here, you'll see our support resources. So you can email us at support@inflowcommunications.com. We also have a support portal at support.inflowcommunications.com. And then our phone number, which is 855-946-3569. And we do have a 3-ring policy. You're not going to be waiting on hold for 10 to 15 minutes to get a hold of us. Give us a call and we can help you out. And then if you have any questions or want any information on the support packages that Inflow offers, you can get in touch with us at sales@inflowcommunications.com, or you can give us a call at 844-446-3569.